With the Elite accused of never wanting CM Punk in AEW and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Speaking on his Experience podcast about the upcoming match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, Jim Cornette expressed doubt over the potential reaction from fans to this bout. They suddenly had Brock reappear and switch heel out of nowhere. He just beat the out of Bobby Lashley, the babyface, and the people cheered madly while he did it. So, unfortunately, I think they are probably going to cheer Brock against Lashley, even though it is supposed to be set up to be exactly the opposite. Bobby was a stronger heel, and also could take care of himself better as a heel with the manager and the group, because he's not an over-the-top personality. They're going to gravitate to Lesnar because he's a freak of various natures. I'm looking forward to seeing it from an athletic standpoint, but I think it will probably accomplish exactly the opposite of what they apparently want, which was Brock to turn heel on Lashley. With Roman Reigns on a tear as the tribal chief and undisputed champion, Kurt Angle noted on his podcast how he should have been a heel a long time ago. I mean, these guys had an incredible faction. They had an awesome career, and they actually obviously spawned into singles careers and had incredible careers as well. The Shield was very special, one of the best factions in the history of the business. I thought Roman was improving dramatically. I won't agree that at the beginning of his career, he should have been pushed as hard as he was pushed. He was still a little green, but Vince had faith in him, and Vince did the right thing because Roman Reigns turned out to be an incredible performer. I mean, Roman Reigns is one of the best workers in the business today. He earned that spot, so even though he didn't earn it at the beginning, he had to go through that pressure, being the guy that's pointed out as the top guy, and he's worked through it, and he became the top guy. He gained respect from the other wrestlers eventually, and that was the most important thing. It's good to see they figured his character out. They should have turned him heel a long time ago. This is the best stuff he's doing right now today, and being a heel, doing the whole family thing, acknowledge me, it's really good stuff. Angle would also reveal the reason Vince McMahon told him to stop doing moonsaults during his in-ring career. I got yelled at a couple of times when I first started doing the moonsault off the top rope. Vince was like, "Listen, you're not a small guy, you're a big guy." And I said, "Vince, but I can do it. That's actually impressive." He said, "Yeah, you're right, but don't use it a lot, just every once in a while." And he was right. Recalling a time that The Undertaker was tried in wrestler's court backstage in WWE, Dutch Mantel revealed on Smack Talk, "I did this with Undertaker first, and I put him on trial for, I think, romancing the girls around." Imagine, because he denied it. He denied it. And then I was the prosecutor and the judge. Of course, you know, I never lost a bat. I never lost a case. And then Undertaker loved it, so he would say wrestler's court, then he'd put me on trial. He'd convict me for whatever I did. Staying on the topic of wrestlers' court, apparently CM Punk was not a fan of this, as Dutch Mantel explained why. Because he didn't invent it, I guess. See, I was watching the other day, some nondescript, nothing would make this tape stand out. Except CM Punk was in wrestling camp, wrestling school. They were showing him how to do a front roll. He couldn't even do that. And I'm thinking, how did this guy, well, I know how he did it, because he has a personality. But his wrestling skills weren't up to par starting out with the other first-year students that he was competing against. I don't know why he came out and knocked wrestlers court. Probably because they convicted him several times on being an a-hole, I guess, and he didn't like it. He tried to appeal and they turned his appeal down, so I don't know why he would come out like that. It's just a joke, and that's what it was supposed to be, a joke, but I do think they turned it maybe a little bit more serious. Touching on a funny interaction with pop star Ariana Grande, Roman Reigns revealed in a recently resurfaced interview from the Mania Club meet and greet, "We were at Epcot doing Disney at the end of last year. We did the VIP experience to where you get taken to the back in order to get on the rides. You get the privilege to jump in front of everybody. Paying to be jerks, I guess. I'm standing there, and it's taking a little longer than usual, and our tour guide is like, 'Let me see what's going on.' As he goes in, he gets turned right back around as Ariana security is pushing him back and away from her and her group. What took so long is she rode the ride in the Epcot ball and she wanted to do it again. It wasn't even a good ride. Why would you want to do it again? Her group was holding me and my daughter up from riding the ride as quickly as we wanted to. When she came out, it was her and an entourage of 20 to 30 people. You just see this little tiny person, barely can see her because she's so little. I felt like my daughter was starstruck." Talking on Logan Paul's podcast, Shawn Michaels was asked about the infamous story of him getting beat up by 6 Marines at a bar in 1995, as HBK said, "I know as much as I've known back then because I was all hammered, and then I woke up in the hospital. The last thing I can remember is dropping my coat off at the coat check. Then I'm waking up in the hospital. Unfortunately, I was in that position a lot of times. I would wake up in an emergency room and go get 3 or 4 more hours of sleep, go to the gym, go wrestle. I was very functioning." During an interview with Bleacher Report, Michaels spoke about the amount of creative freedom he and other members of D-Generation X had in WWE. "When all of DX get together in the same room, it's like the buddies you have in high school. You just sort of pick up where you left off. Some things with DX will always be the same. And I think that comes across both on screen and behind the camera. It's not a DX culture by any stretch. It's just about the joy and the fun of what this job is, and what it truly can be, and now it's actually happening. DX has always been given a lot of free reign, because it was a different entity in itself, and it's built on not doing stuff the right way. I don't think anyone would try to scalp DX, so to speak, because that's just anti-productive to the characters and team as a whole. I tried to tell the talent that the hardest work they're ever going to do is creatively. I think what made DX and the Attitude Era what they were was trying to think ahead of the times we were in. We just felt a change, and a wave coming very different than what wrestling was. We wanted to take it from a traditional and purist standpoint into something more as sports entertainment. When asked about Triple H being in charge of creative, HBK noted, "Certainly there's a difference of what you do from a storyline standpoint from back in the day with DX taking over and fighting authority and all that, and you fast forward all these years later. It's no secret, everyone knew Hunter was eventually going to be someone in control or very close to it. He's been readying himself for that for the last decade." With AEW President Tony Khan recently calling Eric Bischoff a hypocrite for his comments on AEW putting on cold matches, the former WCW president took to his 83 Weeks podcast to respond and take a shot at the promotion, saying, "No, I didn't see it or hear it. I'm aware of it, obviously, because people kept blowing me up yesterday, wanting me to react, or the day before. I think it happened on Thursday. I'm not sure. It probably happened Wednesday. I'm aware of it, and look, hey, I've criticized myself plenty on this show for things that I wish I would have done differently or things that I've learned subsequent to my time in WCW that I wished I had the knowledge or the instinct or insight that I have now 25 years ago. It would have been a better show, but there were certainly random matches that didn't have any story in WCW. I'm not denying that, but I'm also going to point out that I don't think I ever said in any of my commentary about AEW that I believe that every match should have a story. When you're introducing new talent, or when you've got talent that you haven't really matched up storyline wise with an opponent yet, but you want to expose that talent, you want the audience to become familiar with that talent. You want to establish that talent. Sure, put them in there in a match, or put people in matches that don't really have a story, but use that time in non-storyline matches to give us some real backstory and information about said talent. Make us care. It doesn't always have to be in the form of a storyline, a traditional structured Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 kind of story. If I've ever given the impression that I thought every match on Nitro had a storyline, forgive me now. I never meant to. My issue in my comments about AEW and the creative behind it is really about your top matches that don't have sufficient story or structure, or at least a compelling one. There's always an excuse for a match. There's always an angle, your traditional, from back in the beginning of time, an inciting moment that creates a match or creates a storyline, but your top top matches, your A, B, C, and D storylines, that's different. I've seen a lot of matches, a lot of storylines, well, what AEW considers a storyline, that are feel are just nothing more than excuses for a match. They're not well-crafted stories. That's my criticism. It's not a shot. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I'm pointing out that I believe in today's competitive environment, with television being what it is, that if you want to, pay attention, Tony. Build and grow your audience. You're going to have to do it with well-crafted, compelling, well-structured storylines, and I don't see it. I see excuses for matches, and that's not a storyline. So that's my critique. Constructive as I hope it is interpreted, but clearly won't be. As it looks as though CM Punk will have his contract bought out by AEW following his involvement in the backstage brawl after All Out with the EVPs, Jim Cornette took a shot at the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega for never wanting Punk in the company. They didn't want Punk there from the start. I'm talking about the Hardy Boys and old Twinkle Toes, because he exposed them. These guys he exposed for their limited audience. Tony Khan thought that he could put together a national wrestling promotion on their backs. When he found out those backs weren't wide enough to carry it, he had to start bringing in stars. They got somebody who was doing numbers, and they were jealous of it because not only was Punk doing bigger numbers than they were, but he was doing it with wrestling instead of their brand of convoluted Western swing dancing. So those three guys, they needed Punk out of there because he was exposing the whole myth of the Elite as this massive, powerful force around wrestling. Speaking of the brawl, former producer for AEW and friend of CM Punk, Ace Steel, was involved and would end up getting let go due to this, as he has now broken his silence, posting this quote on social media: "The moment you put a stop to people taking advantage of you and disrespecting you is when they define you as difficult, selfish, or crazy. Manipulators hate boundaries." And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.